Hey guys, my name is Simultaneous and I'm also known as Coach Swu. Welcome into the Mathsbuddies channel. Each week, I share with you methods you can use to solve any maths topic as a grade 11 or a grade 12 learner. So if you are new to the channel, I'd like to welcome you and I'd like to please subscribe so that you won't miss when another video gets uploaded. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into this week's session. This week, we'll be looking into part 2 of equations and inequalities. I'll be sharing with you methods on how you can solve simultaneous equation and methods on how you can do quadratic inequalities. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. With the first one, we have here simultaneous equation. So simultaneous equation, when you're dealing with these type of questions, the first thing that is very important is to do this. Number one, you always need to denote your equations, right? Now here, what I mean, we need to denote equations. Here we've given two equations, so it means we need to take the first one and call it our equation 1, and then we take the second one, which is 2 to the power of x times 32, and then we call this one equation 2. Alright, and then now the second step that we need to do is we need to basically take in one of these equations, we need to take one of them and then simplify that one further so we can make one variable subject of the formula, and then with that subject of the formula we can call that one equation 3. So now here we need to find equation 3. So to do that, you need to look into these two equations. You need to find which one is basically easier for you to solve. So for me, for what I see here is this one here, the second equation. I can see this one, it is easier because it has these exponents, so I can work with the exponents, right? So let me go ahead and write that one. So I have 2 to the power of x times 32 is equals to 4 to the power of y. Now how do I basically simplify this? So the first thing that I need to do is, I know that whenever I'm encountering exponents, I need to prime factorize all my numbers. Now 2 here is a prime number, so it's okay. Now 32 is not, so which means we need to open up our calculator, and then when we prime factorize 32, what we're going to do is we're going to press 32, then we're going to go to the equal sign, then press shift, and then here you'll see there's a highlight there that says fact, so press that one. You can see 32 can be 2 to the power of 5, so this means now here I have 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of 5, and then now 4, when you prime factorize that one, it becomes 2 to the power 2. So this means it's going to be 2 to the power of 2y. Now as you can see here, we have like equations, we have exponents with the same base. So this will mean this is going to be 2 to the power of x plus 5 is equals to 2 to the power of 2y. Now I know that if I have bases the same, then I can also equate what? The powers, right? And then as you can see here, I can make x subject to the formula. So when I do that, I take the 5 over and then I get 2y minus 5. Now this becomes my third equation. Now here, this is very important. Here we took equation 2 and then we simplified x, or we made equation 3 from equation 2. So this then means now the next step to do is we need to substitute, right? We need to sub this new equation, but now when we're substituting it, we're going to substitute into the equation that we basically didn't simplify further. In this case, it is equation 1. All right, now what is equation 1? Equation 1, it is x squared minus xy minus y squared equals to minus 1. So this means now when I'm substituting, is what I'm going to do is, whenever I see x, I'm going to substitute 2y minus 5. So let me go ahead and do that. So I have 2y minus 5 squared minus 2y minus 5 into y minus y squared equals to minus 1. Now here I can see I have an expanded product, right? So an expanded product means this is 2 minus y, 2y minus 5 all squared. Then now this means when I expand it, it's going to be 2y minus 5 into 2y minus 5. And then here I see that I have this y from this side, so I'm going to take it and move it in front first. Always make sure that you do that so that you don't basically confuse yourself. Minus y squared equals to minus 1. Alright, here what I'm going to do is this, we're going to multiply this with that and this with that. So when I do that, 2y times 2y becomes 4y squared. 2y times minus 5 becomes minus 10y plus 25. So that's what I get from this side. Then from here I have minus y. I'm going to multiply this with that. Then this gives me minus 2y squared plus 5y minus y squared equals to minus 1. So now from here, what do? I do standard form. Now in standard form, I need to start off with the ones with what? With y squared. Now I see I have y squared here, and y squared there. So let me go ahead and put them in front first. 4y squared minus 2y squared minus y squared. And then after that, I'm going to look for the ones with y. So I have minus 10y plus 5y. So let me go ahead and write those down. So it is minus 10y minus 10y plus 5y. And then lastly, I have my constants. Now my constants, it is 25 and this minus 1, but when I move it across, it's going to be positive 1, right? So I have plus 25, and I take the minus 1 over, it becomes plus 1, and I equate this to 0. So this then means now when I'm simplifying this, I'll have 4y squared minus 2y squared minus y minus 1y squared. So this is 4 minus 2, which is 2, and then the 2 minus 1 is going to be y squared. And from this part here, I'm focusing on the coefficients. Minus 10, that's minus 20, plus 5, so that's minus 15y. Then here we have 25 plus 1, which is 26, right? So plus 26 equals to 0. Now from here we're going to factorize, but if you don't know how to factorize, you can basically use what? You can use the quadratic formula. So here I have this one equals to 0, y and y. Now the factors of 26 that can give me 15, it is 2 and 13. Now 13 is bigger than 2, so 13 is going to take the sign of a middle term. Then negative times positive gives me negative, so it means y is equals to 2 or y is equals to 13. Then now from here, once I've found my first values for the first variable, I then sub these equations or these answers that I got into the third equation, which is that equation that had x as the subject of the formula. So if you remember, I had x is equals to 2y minus 5, and then when I substitute there, it is 2 minus 5. Press this in your calculator, it gives you minus 1. When you do it this other side, this is 2y minus 5. Substitute that, you get this one minus 5. Now 2 times 13, it is 26 minus 5, and then you get 21. And therefore, when y is 2, x is minus 1, and when y is 13, x is 21, and that is your final answer. Now let's go ahead and see if you can basically do the same thing onto the next one. Now in the next one, we're given again, we need to solve for x and y simultaneously. So we're given the first equation and the second equation. Now the first step is we need to denote the equations, right? So I have 2x minus y equals to 7, so that's my equation 1. And then I have x squared plus xy plus y squared, that's 21, equals to 21. That's my equation 2. So here we need to find equation 3. So how do we do that? We take the one equation that's easier, and then we make that one equation 3. Now here I can see equation 1 here, it's easy. So now I'm going to take equation 1. So that's 2x minus y equals to 7. and I'm going to make this subject of the formula. So how do I do that? Now here I see that I have the minus y here, which is negative, so I'll take this one over. Then when I do that, I will have 2x equals to 7 plus y. Then I'll take the 7 and I'll bring it to the other side. That way I'll have 2x minus 7 equals to y. When I rearrange this, it means y, it is 2x minus 7, and that's your equation 3. Then step 3 is we need to substitute, right? So what are we substituting? Remember, now we have equation 3, and then we got equation 3 from equation 1. So we're substituting now equation 3 into equation 2, which is the equation that we didn't simplify from. So what is that equation? So it is x squared plus xy plus y squared equals to 21. Now when we substitute, we're going to have x squared plus x into 2x minus 7 plus 2x minus 7 squared is equals to 21. Now here we need to expand this product. Always, to avoid mistakes, make sure that you expand that product. So this is x squared, and then here I see that I have x times 2x and x times minus 7, so that is plus 2x squared minus 7x. Then here I still need to expand that, so it's 2x minus 7 equals to 21. Then now here I need to multiply this thing out, right? This and that, and this and that. So I have x squared, or here x squared plus 2x squared, I have 3x squared, just to make things easy. Then here I have minus 7x. Then here 2x times 2x, it is 4x squared. 2x times minus 7, it is minus 14x. Same applies with this one. Minus 7 times 2x is minus 14x. Minus 7 times minus 7, it is 49. Then that's equals to 21. Now here we need to have a standard form, so we start with the x squared. So I see my x squared is 3x squared and 4x squared. So this is 7x squared. Then here I have minus 7 and minus 14 and minus 14. So minus 14 minus 14, that's minus 28. Now minus 28 minus 7, that's minus 35. So I have minus 35x. And then lastly I have 49. So put in the 49, move across the 21 equals to 0. So I get 7x squared minus 35x. And then here I have 49 minus 21, so that's 28 equals to 0. Then here I divide by the 7, because I can see 7 can go into 7 and 35 and 28. So when I do that, I get x squared. Then 7 into 35 goes in 5 times, so that's minus 5x. And then into 28 it goes in 4 times, so that's 4 equals to 0. Then from here we factorize, so x 1 and 4, and then minus and minus, then x is 1 or x is 4. And then after this, the last step is, remember, we sub x is equals to 1 and x is equals to 4 into equation 3. That's where we have y as the subject of the formula. So y, there is 2x minus 7. So substitute the first one. So I see this is 2 minus 7, that's minus 5. Do the same thing. Y is equals to 2x minus 7. And then here substitute minus 7, 8 minus 7, it is 1. So this means when x is 1, y is minus 5, and when x is 4, y is 1. So that is basically all on this simultaneous equation. Now let's go ahead and look into the quadratic inequality. Now in the quadratic inequality, we are given two questions here. Now here we need to solve for x given that question and also that question. Now before we do that, I want us to go over into some of the things that you need to understand about quadratic equations. So some of the methods that can help you to basically solve quadratic equations. Now the methods to focus on quadratic, right? So I will say quad equation, right? Now the first thing that you always need to make sure that you have on the quadratic inequality, sorry, it's a quadratic inequality. Quadratic inequality is the first step that you need to do is you need to have a standard form, right? Now a standard form on inequalities, it will be something of this nature. It will be ax squared plus bx plus c. So it can either be greater than 0 or less than 0, or greater or equals to 0 or less or equals to 0, right? So it doesn't matter whichever way here, as long as you get this everything, as long as you have everything on the left side and then on the right side you have 0, then it means that's basically your standard form. But the second thing is this. Now if you have your factors, and then let's say you got your factors like that, right? And then let's say this is x plus a and then x plus b, right? Then now here in this case, x is small, x is small, x is small, and then b is big, right? If you have something like this, right, and then this is greater than 0, this will mean now here we have what we call critical values, right? So critical values are values which will make this expression equals to 0, right? So we know that the critical values here is going to be minus a and x is equals to minus b, right? So this happens, this thing, it happens all the time whenever you have the first critical value small, right, and the second critical value big. All right, so what is this thing then? Now if you have something of this nature and it is greater than 0, look at this one, greater than 0, you see the inequality here, it is pointing on the right, right? So if it is pointing on the right, then it means your final answer for this, it will always be in this form. So the first x value will point at left, or the second one will point at the right, right? Now here the one pointing at the left will have the value that is small, and then the one pointing on the right will be the value that is big, right? So let's make an example of this. Let's say this was okay, let's say example, so let's say this was x minus 5, x plus 6 is greater than 0. Then now your critical values here, it is x is equals to 5 or x is equals to minus 6. Now here we can see that 5 is big and minus 6 is small, right? Small, big, right? So now the inequality here, it said greater than 0, it pointed basically to the right, right? So because of it pointed to the right, that means our answer is going to be x is less or x is greater. So the inequalities are going to be separated basically. Now here the one pointing at left will have the smallest critical value, and the one pointing at the right will have the biggest critical value. So this means this is going to be your answer. So what about when we have, now let's say it's the same thing, x plus a, x plus b, but now in this case it is greater or equals to 0. Now this is going to be the same approach as this one, because the inequality is still pointing at right, but now the difference is that with your critical values, with the same critical values as this one, with the same critical values as this one, let me just highlight this one correctly, your answers will still point at left and the other one will point at the right. But now because of it said equal to, you need to also include that. So it's x is less or equal to the smallest critical value, and then or x is greater or equals to the biggest critical value, right? Now the third one is when you have again our factors like that, but now it's pointing on the left, right? So when it's pointing on the left with the same critical values, now this means our answer is gonna be combined. So both of the critical values will be in one place, right? Then now on the left we'll have the smallest critical value, and then on the right we have the biggest critical value. Let's have an example for this one. Example for this one, let's say I have x plus 7 and x minus 3 less than 0. Now here I can see my critical values here. It is x is equals to minus 7 or x is equals to 3. So this means now, because of my inequality has pointed on the left, my answer or my final answer is going to be x, and then it will have these two inequality values both pointing on the left, and then x is going to be in the middle of that, and then on the left part I'll have the smallest critical value, which is minus 7 in this case, and then on the right side I'll have the biggest critical value, which is 3. So this also applies on the last part, that is when we have the same inequality pointing on the left, but now it has an equal sign. So this means the final answer using the same idea is going to be x pointing on the left both sides, but one will have the equal signs now, because now we including the equal values, so it will be the same thing. And then here is going to be small, then here it will be big. So make sure that you write this down, or make sure that you take note of this one. The easy way to do it is this, right? If it's pointing on the right, then your answer, once the answer is pointing on the left, and then the other one is going to point on the right, right? And then here you're going to have the small critical value, and then here you're going to have the biggest critical value. So it doesn't matter now, even if it's equal, it's going to be the same as equal, right? When it's pointing on the left, and then the values are going to be combined like this, and then one is going to be small one on the left, the big one on the right. So let's go ahead and use basically what we just spoke about here on what we have there, right? On the first question here, we want to solve for x, right? So what you're going to do is, first thing is standard form. So to get the standard form, I'll have to first multiply out the 3 into x plus 6. So here I have x squared is greater than 3 into x plus 6, right? So if I want to do that, I'll multiply this 3 with x and 3 with 6. So this gives me x squared is greater than 3x plus 18. Then from here I do the standard form, which is x squared minus 3x minus 18 is greater than 0. What do I do after this? I need to factorize. So if I'm factorizing here, I will have my two brackets greater than 0, and then I'll have x and x. Now the factors of 18 that can give me 3, it is 3 and 6. Now 6 is the bigger factor, so it's going to take the sign of the middle term, and negative times negative is going to be positive. So this means our critical values, it is x is equals to minus 3 or x is equals to 6, right? Now what do? I go and look into the inequality sign. Now remember, we said if it's pointing on the right, let's go back there. We said where it was, there it is. We said if it's pointing on the right, then our answer, one of them will point on the left, and then one of them will point on the right. Then the one pointing on the left, the one with the inequality that's pointing on the left, is going to be the smallest critical value that we're going to put in there. And the one pointing on the right is going to be the biggest critical value. So this means now our answer is going to be x pointing to the left, unequal value, or x pointing to the right, unequal value. Now which critical value here is small between minus 3 and 6? It's minus 3, so it's going to be here. And then the one which is bigger is going to be basically here, and that is going to be your answer. Now let's go ahead and look into the second one, right? Now in the second one, we given minus 3x squared is less or equal to 2x minus 8, right? Now what's the first thing? Standard form. So standard form is going to be minus 3x squared minus 2x plus 8 less or equals to 0. Now this is a standard form, but now here to factorize, we need to make sure that the value for a, it is positive, right? So here we can see that the value for a here is -3 and it is negative. Now we need to have a positive. So how do we do that? So to do that, we need to divide here by -1, because we cannot divide by -3, since here -3 doesn't go into 2 and doesn't go into 8. So we divide it by -1, and then we're going to be left with x squared plus 2x minus 8. And then now here, because of we divided by a negative, the inequality sign is going to change. So when the inequality sign changes, it points on the opposite direction. So it points on the right, and then we still have the equal sign, and then that is 0. So now we're no longer focusing on less than 0, but we're focusing on greater than 0. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue with that. Now here we need to factorize. So factorizing, when I have 3x and x, so here we need to have factors that will give us 2. So now when I'm looking at the factors of 8, I need to do them in such a way that when I multiply this first term and the last term, and then I get this value here that's going to be here with this, when I add them together, they need to give me a middle term of 2x, right? So now the factors of 8, to do that, is going to be 3. When I have 3, I need to multiply 3 with 2, right? Because the factors of 8 that I'm using is 2 and 4, and then here I'm gonna have 4. Now I know that 3x times 2 is 6x, 4 times x is 4x, and when I subtract them, they give me 6x. Sorry, when I subtract them, they give me 2x. So this means now here this is going to be the plus, then here it's going to be the minus, because it's going to be 3x times positive 2, which is going to be positive 6x. Then here it's going to be minus 4x times x, it's going to be minus 4x. Now let me write it here, 6x minus 4x. Now 6x minus 4x is 2x. So this means now here our critical values, it is x is equals to 4 over 3, or x is equals to -2. Now if this is confusing you to factorize like this, remember in the previous video I showed you how you can basically do exactly the same thing but using the quadratic formula. So go over that video and make sure that you learn that one, so that you can also factorize the way that I do factorize. Now here I got my critical values, it is 4 over 3, and then the other one it is -2. Now I go back into my inequality. Now remember my inequality now, at first it was less or equal, but now it changed because we divided by the negative. So now here it is greater or equals to 0. Now we need to go and revisit what we wrote there and see what did we say when it is pointing on the left side. Oh, it's pointing on the right side. So greater or equals to 0. So here there is greater or equals to 0. So it means one of them will point on the left and one of them will point on the right. So the answer here will mean x is less or equal, or x is greater or equal. Then now on the one pointing on the left is going to be the smallest value, which is -2. Then the one pointing on the right is going to be the biggest value, and that is basically our final answer. So that is all for this week's session. If you like the video, make sure that you share with your friends, and also leave a comment and tell me what you think about this one. And also don't forget to let me know into some of the topics that you would like for me to do for you, so I can also basically help you with that one and help you prepare for your first term exams. So I'm gonna see you on to the next one. Cheers.